Newcastle United have confirmed that Steve Bruce has left his position as head coach at the football club by mutual consent. Graham Jones will lead the team on an interim basis, starting with Saturday's trip to Crystal Palace. That is exclusively live on talkSPORT 2. And the new owners say the process of recruiting a new head coach is underway and an appointment will be announced in due course. So you heard it first and you heard it fastest right here on talkSPORT. You can watch us and how we deal with a story of this magnitude, because this is seismic news. We expected something out of Newcastle this week, and the something is Steve Bruce has gone. Simon is with me. So too is Trevor Sinclair. We're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, so if you want to watch the show and watch how we deal with this, then you can head over to the official talkSPORT channel on those platforms. Simon, look at it. So many messages coming in. Al from Pembrokeshire. I'm a Toon fan. I'm grateful to Steve for keeping our heads above water. But it's a results game and form has been terrible. Clearly, he's a decent man. I wish him well. But for me, it was time for Steve to move on. We're joined now live by the North East correspondent of the Daily Mail, and he's Craig Hope. Craig, good morning. Give us your reaction to this news, would you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it wasn't not expected, Jim. You know, we thought this was coming 7 days ago. Listen, I've spoken to you guys quite a few times about this. In my opinion, Steve Bruce should have been removed from post a long time ago, really. But I certainly think in the immediacy of this, it should have happened last week. And we would have avoided the scenes in the press conference on Friday, which turned a little bit ugly. And then certainly in terms of how Sunday's game played out. Listen, it takes a bit of a leap for me to say this, bearing in mind I've made my opinions clear on Steve for a long time now, but I felt a little bit sorry for him in the second half. I really did feel sympathy, and that situation should have been avoided. The new owners were told last week, they were warned by various parties inside and outside the club that to leave Steve in charge for Sunday's game risked the atmosphere turning toxic and everything else, and it really wasn't pretty. It was quite unsavoury. We then saw after the game a story which was now a paper yesterday, 2 players clashed in the tunnel in a public area, and the whole thing had just descended into anarchy. Now, listen, it's come 7 days too late. Okay, we can move on now that that's happened. It is absolutely the right decision. This couldn't have been allowed to fester. The players wanted change. I think Steve wanted change. Supporters wanted change. So it is the right decision. We're all clear on that.
You see, Simon, I would go with Craig on that one. Yep. That Steve Bruce will always look back in his 1000th game thinking, well, that was the milestone for me at top-level football. But he had to endure a chance of you're getting sacked in the morning, ringing out in his ears. Many would say he should never have been put through that experience.
I think that's right. I think a lot of what Craig has said in this particular soliloquy is right. I think there was no necessity for him to be managing that team on Sunday. There was ample opportunity to have made decisions. It was an abdication of responsibility or awareness of the landscape to have put him into a situation. Look, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
He can take people calling him names.
Sure.
He can take observations and criticisms and fair and balanced views. And I'm not the head of Steve Bruce's PR. I'm somebody that had a very difficult relationship with him 20 years ago and developed a better relationship over years, so I have respect for the person, not necessarily every single performance that Newcastle put out, because there were times when Newcastle were very poor under his management, as there were times they were very poor under Rafa Benitez's management as well. But I look at the landscape and say it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary to have been in that environment. The 1,000-game nonsense is a load of old crap. It's sentiment driven by the media. Yes, it would have been nice for him to manage his 1,000th game at Newcastle, but no, it wasn't nice to have managed his 1,000th game at Newcastle with that backdrop.
Yeah.
And in part, that backdrop was created by journalists like Craig.
No, Simon, no.
Craig, I've read a lot of your articles, mate. They've moved from an honest observation into a personal territory. I looked at your article on Saturday, where you wrote about his clumsy attitude and Jurassic vantage point on pushing back against the media observations. I'm a great admirer of some of your work, Craig, but I think you've stepped into a territory where you've become a poster boy for a certain style of Newcastle supporter, which I don't think does you journalistic credit.
You would refute that, surely, Craig.
Listen, Simon, I mean, what I will say is there's an opinion of Steve Bruce which exists outside the North East, and it's put forward by the likes of you. It's known as the friends and the allies of Steve Bruce.
That's nonsense, Craig. It's also insulting.
Let me finish. Let me finish. And I must say, you guys do a tremendous job in this regard. It is powerful. It is widespread. It is not true. It does not reflect the reality of what it is like to be on the ground here in Tyneside, to work with Steve Bruce, to cover a Steve Bruce team on a day-by-day basis. I can guarantee you of that. You've only got to look at the supporter poll last week. 94% of fans want him to go before the takeover. The strength of feeling up here is incredibly strong. And there's this idea which exists beyond Tyneside that is just not true, and it is put forward by guys like you, Simon.
But that's not true, Craig. I concur entirely with your view. I don't think Steve is a fabulous elite manager. I've never said he was. I think somebody putting the team 12th and 13th in the league, however they got there, is somebody that deserves a level of credibility. I've spoken to many of Newcastle managers, whether it's Graham Souness, whether it's Sam Allardyce, whether it's Alan Pardew, whether it's other people that have managed this football club, and the backdrop of the dreaded word that no one's allowed to utter in conjunction with Newcastle, which is the expectation of the fans. And it's a constant theme that every single Newcastle manager trots out about the expectation of the fans. And if anyone else says it, north of the south of the Watford Gap, then it's an outrageous invasion to Newcastle's privacy. The bottom line is that some of the stuff that's getting written by Newcastle journalists is beyond the pale of football observation. It moves into the territory of personal. And I'm not sitting here advancing the argument that Steve Bruce is a top-draw manager. I don't think he should be managing Man United or Liverpool or one of the top 6 sides. I do think there was an unfair agenda from the moment that poor bugger walked through the door 2 years ago. That's what I think. And I think people like you have weighed in endlessly, Craig.
No, I'll take you up on this, okay? There was no pre-existing, no premeditated agenda against Steve Bruce. From day one, he had my support. Now, on day 2, I realised there was issues here. You know, it wasn't day 1. I really do resent this idea that from the moment Steve came in, he was rowing against the tide. He wasn't. If things had been different and performances had been better, if Steve had handled himself better with the press and with us guys and with regards to what he said to supporters, it would have been different. That is an absolute load of nonsense that Steve Bruce was onto a loser. Steve Bruce failed because of Steve Bruce, not because of any pre-existing opinions. And with regards to the report on Saturday, now you said that it was personal. It wasn't personal. Steve Bruce made a personal alert in the press conference on Friday. A press conference, by the way, he should never have been put up for.
Very true. I agree, Craig.
I'm on the record as saying I understand to a degree why he lashed out at us. I did. But you had a sentence, Steve Bruce, on Friday said, "I will maintain my dignity." Within 5 seconds, he was saying he hoped reporters got a slap. Now that
I think that was wrong, Craig.
That was wrong.
I thought he was silly to have done that.
I would agree with Craig on that.
I agree. So when I wrote about it on Saturday, saying it was clumsy and misguided, that was a direct reference to what was happening.
Craig, let me jump in and let me just move this on, because a lot of Newcastle fans, knowing that you're on with us at this moment, want me to ask you this. Who is next? Do you think the Saudis have decided?
Have we moved on from talking about Steve Bruce now? Because I really am keen to draw a line under this.
Draw a line under it. That's why I'm asking you, Craig, because we're heading to the 11 o'clock bulletin. We've got about 30 seconds. In your view, who's next?
In the short term, it's going to be Graham Jones. I wouldn't even be surprised if there could be an appointment before then. Now, names in the frame. They've had discussions with Paulo Fonseca with regards numbers. I think they have with a few others. Lucien Forbes, Stephen Gerrard's a name which has been mentioned. Frank Lampard. Rudy Garcia, and there's a lot of names in there. As I said on your station yesterday, there's a long list, a short list, and a long list within the short list. So let's wait and see. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much indeed. Craig Hope, who is the North East correspondent for the Daily Mail, and Craig's been right across this from the word go.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.